And then I give them a framework. So I show them how we can divide the monthly cycle into 4 weeks, 4 phases. And each of these phases can be likened to the external seasons.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am in the company of Jaime. Hi, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Very nice. So Jaime is a holistic menstrual therapist and coach. So tell us a little bit more about your background.
Originally, I'm from England, and I used to be in the corporate world, did the corporate business world for 10 years, until it was enough. Realized that it was just not satisfying my soul. Then I left the corporate world and went into teaching yoga. Traveling the world, teaching yoga. That's how I ended up on the island. 3 years moving around teaching. And then that's when I started to have a lot of awareness around the menstrual cycle. So that's where my journey began, when I got to the island 2 years ago. And studied mostly online and through reading a ton of books around the topic. And that leads me to where I am now.
Very nice, because indeed ladies are very much under pressure health-wise because of increased stress levels in modern lifestyles, endocrine disruptors, different toxins, etc. And I mean, obviously, not being a woman, it's a little bit harder for me to directly relate to hormonal health for women, but I am acutely aware of the pressure that the modern world puts on people's endocrine systems in general. And can you tell us a little bit, what are the main challenges for women, for the women that you take care of, particularly with regards to the menstrual cycle?
They don't even know why they need to know about their cycle. Why would we even need to pay attention to this? And firstly, our cycle is the first thing that goes awry or that causes some issues if there's an underlying health condition. So just as an example, a really common one would be stress. So if a woman is stressed, then she may notice her cycle becomes more painful, her menstruation itself becomes more painful, or she misses her cycle completely, so she won't bleed, she'll have amenorrhea for months, or develop some reproductive health condition like polycystic ovaries or endometriosis, etc. The next thing is a woman is mostly unaware of the fact that the hormones change on a daily basis. And this influences everything in her body from a physical point, so like the metabolism, the resting cortisol levels, the brain function, all of these things shift throughout the everyday in the roughly 28-day cycle. But then they also influence the emotions, the physical energy levels, and the general outlook we have on life. So because of this unawareness, women tend to give themselves a hard time when they can't stick to a diet, they can't stick to an exercise routine for a whole month. They go on a binging eating situation. They can't stay focused every day. They're trying to do the same thing every day like a man can, because his hormonal system is 24 hours. So this is where I try to help women understand that they don't have to be the same every day. They don't have to do the same routine every day. They can adapt their diet, their exercise, their social life, the way they approach their work tasks, and so much more.
It makes perfect sense to me indeed, ultimately, if you think of a state of consciousness and the way you perceive the world, from a physiological perspective, it's mostly a cocktail of hormones and neurotransmitters, isn't it? It's your brain chemistry. And hormones are extremely important for making you feel in a certain way or another, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why it's extremely important, I think, for people in general, and particularly women, to be very aware of how they feel and try to make sense of it. And clearly also trying to see it through the lens of their cycle. Because the way that, you know, estrogen, estradiol, progesterone work, very powerful, right, on women physiology.
Yeah.
And okay, so when you work with women, I mean, the first step is awareness.
Yes.
And what do you teach them?
Yeah. So the first thing I will help them learn about is their anatomy, their physiology. So actually looking at the reproductive organs and looking at how the cycle works and what the changes are on a physical level every day throughout the cycle. So learning how menstruation actually happens. So that's the awareness piece. And then also the roles of the hormones, so the roles of estrogen and the roles of progesterone and how this impacts the outlook that I'm talking about. And then I give them a framework. So I show them how we can divide the monthly cycle into 4 weeks, 4 phases. And each of these phases can be likened to the external seasons. So menstruating, when a woman is bleeding, this can be seen as the inner winter time. So a time to slow down, to be very inwards, to be very still. Then in spring, this is pre-ovulation, when the woman has stopped bleeding and estrogen starts to rise. She can come out of her hibernation slowly, sweetly, have some fun, be a bit playful. And then as she moves into her ovulation time, this is the summertime, and this is when she's very extroverted, very confident, great time to be socializing, to be doing productive work, to be communicating with people, like very people time, very magnetizing around this time. And then she moves into her premenstrual phase, which is like inner autumn. And so this is the time to start slowing down, to start upping self-care, because the resting cortisol levels become higher, so it's easier to get a little bit snappier or frustrated or irritated quicker. So it's really important to go into this slower time, slowing down. Yeah.
Let's say if somebody hasn't had a period for like 6 months, or maybe they have a very long period. Instead of like 3-4 days, they tend to have maybe 7 days, or they bleed too much. I mean, do you use supplements? Do you use diet? Do you use exercise, meditation, or what kind of intervention can you recommend?
Yeah. So I always come back to this framework, because this framework essentially is cultivating balance in every aspect of life. But let's talk about the nervous system, and let's talk about the stress levels. So women have bought into, like most people on earth have bought into, this idea of our success comes from, our sense of success comes from what we've achieved, what we've done. So it's very doing, which is very masculine. And a woman benefits from also slowing down and cultivating balance of being, not just doing. And that's what this framework does. So winter and autumn are times to be more. Spring and summer are times to do. So the body is literally supporting this energy. So when she starts to flow with this energy, rather than resisting, so if she tries to go to the gym and do a spinning workout on day 3 of her cycle, that's hard work, and that's cultivating more stress in the system. The body really wants to relax. So when we start to move with this energy, we're cultivating more balance in our energy levels, we're cultivating more relaxed nervous system, and the womb is basically our inner wisdom. So when we listen to her, she then responds in the same way. So if we start to honor her needs, then we obviously start to have a better relationship with her, where then the cycles will return. So outside of the framework, which I say cultivates this balance, I also weave in feminine embodiment practices that might be womb meditations or like womb yoga, basically practices, somatic practices that slow the nervous system down and cultivate a sense of safety and relaxation in the body. This is essentially what brings us back into balance.
Makes perfect sense indeed, yes. I interviewed like a while back a lady who's specialized in menopause and premenopause, and she works particularly with ladies that are going into their mid 40s and towards late 40s, yeah. And also she was saying that women are different from men, and there should be, I think, the cycle or this specificity being understood and recognized more in the workplace, etc. Problem is that, of course, if you are a woman executive or any kind of like working person, it's very difficult for you just to take time off during your inner winter, right?
For sure, yeah.
So there is an ideal that I can see that you're explaining very well, and then there's the reality of society and the world as it is right now. So it's always finding a compromise, isn't it?
For sure. Can I talk to that?
Yes.
Yeah, so funny story. Before I did this work, I've always honored my cycle. I've always had a great relationship with it. And when I was working in the business corporate world back in Sydney, I went and saw an Ayurvedic doctor about some health things that was going on. And one of the advices he gave me was to not work on my moon time, not work on my first 2 or 3 days, just rest, just be in bed, he says. And I'm like, that's the most ridiculous advice ever. That just isn't possible. And so I'm really happy I got that experience, because I fully understand how it feels for a woman in that world to be given this advice, and that's not what I give her. What I am saying is to slow down. So however that looks like, it might mean walking to the train station in a slower pace, giving yourself more time to get to the train, yeah? It might be like moving meetings out of your diary for those first few days, because you don't want to really be around people. It's more inward energy. So so avoiding being with people as much as you can, not putting things in your calendar in the evenings to catch up with friends, and booking a massage in for those days. Like if you have to do something like run a really important meeting, then make sure you put something in before and after that just nourishes the system a little bit. So it's not about like the extremes that I'm saying to help a woman understand the energies. I give very practical advice. So I help women understand how to adapt their exercise, their diet, the work tasks they do, when to be social, when not to be social. And all of this is guidelines. It's not saying you don't socialize when you're on your moon time. It's just, this is how you might feel, inquire, and if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, you've got lots of energy, go for it.
What would you tell ladies that are taking the contraceptive pill? I mean, there's quite a large minority, maybe possibly a majority of ladies that do that, right?
Yeah.
So basically they don't have a period, they induce a period when they are off the pill just for a few days, and everything is artificial in a way.
Yeah.
So what's the advice there?
So I won't give advice, but I'll tell you that there's a lot of misconceptions around the pill, and there's a lot of information that the doctors didn't tell women when they were going on to the pill, myself included. So what happens with the pill is it shuts down the reproductive system. So they're not having these natural flow of hormones, so they're not having the seasonal framework, and in actual fact they are likening to the masculine system, hormonal system, basically very flatline. So this could sound appealing to some women, and if it does, great. It's freedom of choice. But from my perspective, a woman is missing out on a lot of amazing gifts that come with the cycle. I call them kind of superpowers or enhanced gifts, like enhanced communication, enhanced intuition, enhanced access to wisdom, enhanced pleasure for sure. The pill definitely affects pleasure, and it also can influence the person you choose to be with. So a common thing is when women come off the pill, they tend to leave their relationship because the synthetic hormones stop them from actually relating to someone on their genuine, natural, pheromonal level. So it's kind of a shame, I think, for women to miss out on this. And for me, the reason why I feel women are on the contraceptive pill is because they don't know there's any other way of managing their fertility naturally. And that's the other piece of work that I do that I won't spend too much time talking about now, because that's probably like a whole other piece, but I help women understand how to manage their fertility naturally. Our body tells us exactly where we are in our cycle every day. So this is a scientific based method, and it's 99.8% effective, which is more than the pill.
But tell me a little bit more about Copenhagen. I mean, there are many places in the world. Why did you end up in Copenhagen again? You were teaching yoga,
I was teaching yoga in Sri Lanka at the time, and didn't know where to go next. Some yoga teacher I met told me about the island. So yeah, I came here just planning to be here for a month to check it out, and I've not left since. That was 2 years ago.
Quite typical, yeah?
Yeah, it's
a sticky island.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, it's awesome. It's difficult to make plans now during these strange periods that we are in. So do you have, I know that you have a retreat online coming up, or a course online, yeah? Other than that, I mean, do you have any plans for the next 6 months to a year? What's your outlook?
Don't plan to go anywhere. I love the island. Just continue to do what I do here, which is nature, dancing, and spending time with my beloved and working.
And inspiring ladies to take care of their cycle a little bit more.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Jaime, thank you very much for your little chat today. You know, it's been very nice. So
Thank you.
Thank you.